Many people living with HIV/AIDS have been heavily stigmatized and discriminated against, and the fear of going through this makes it even difficult for them to reveal their status. But when it comes to relationships and marriage, does one have a duty to reveal their HIV status to their sexual partners? Well, today we speak to Maria Janet Nalubega, a resident of Kabarebe, Isingiro district, who says she was infected by her late husband and only got to know about it after his death. Hello everyone and welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Dennis Duke Onyala, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Dennis Duke UG. Now, Maria Janet Nalubega might look young to you, but she is already a widow with HIV/AIDS. Unlike some other young people who indulge in sexual activities before marriage, Janet's first sexual experience was with her husband, and as such the two never took the hassle to do an HIV test since they never had any reasons to be suspicious of each other. With many difficulties of childlessness, they still held on to each other until they were blessed with 2 children. Unfortunately, her husband died 4 months after having their second daughter, leaving her as a single mother.
After losing my child, I got pregnant again and the child died too. As I was about to give up, I got pregnant once again and gave birth to a girl on the 16th of April, and the father died in August. My daughter never got a chance to see her father, not even know how he looked like, but just saw him in pictures.
Shortly after her husband's death, a friend advised her to go for an HIV test, and despite Janet's little knowledge about HIV/AIDS, she decided to go to the hospital since also the cause of her husband's death wasn't clear and people had started suspecting him to have been positive. Usually, everyone reacts differently when they find out they have HIV, but common feelings include shock, anger, fear or sadness. And right in the hospital is where Nalubega got the shock of her life when she tested HIV positive.
I went to Lugazi and the doctors found out I was HIV positive. At that point, I hated myself to a point that I wanted to drown my daughter, who I had come with to Riveriz. But on a second thought, I didn't want to leave my son, who I had left home as an orphan, since I also grew up as one. After some time, I got the courage and went to the AIDS support organization, TASO, and started getting medication till today.
Janet got so bitter and hated herself and everything around her. Having gotten married as a virgin and never committed adultery, she definitely knew that it was her late husband who had infected her.
I hated my husband because he destroyed my life and future when I was still young.
Luckily, her 2 children were tested on different occasions and they were all found negative. But due to resentment, Maria never mentioned it to anyone. But after contemplating on so many things, drowning her daughter inclusive, she somehow got stronger and started to think positively about life. It was until she started receiving some items that were being given to HIV patients that people now got to know of her situation.
I did not quickly tell my people, but later they found out when I received soya flour and cooking oil. It is at that point that my in-laws got to know that surely I was HIV positive. But even then, they were not sure of who had infected the other. However, I wasn't bothered since I knew anyone could acquire the virus.
Unlike so many widows who have faced the wrath of their in-laws, Janet was never chased out of her husband's small piece of land, and as much as there was no support from that side, at least she had somewhere to begin from. Janet, who had been left in a rental, decided to at least come up with a semi-permanent house made of sand, bricks and trees on a piece of land that the late husband had left. She had to look for ordinary jobs where she could earn at least 500 shillings and had to save at least 300 Uganda shillings for the house. She had to do most of the work for the construction of her house, like pottering, since she couldn't afford paying more than one builder.
I got married in a banana fibered house, but later it collapsed and we moved to the trading center where we started renting. It was in that house where he died and left me without any help. Given the situation, I thought about abandoning my children for other men, but I couldn't do it. I didn't want to leave my children as orphans since I knew what it meant. So I braced myself as a woman and I joined village circles and also started looking for jobs regardless of my status. I would earn 500 shillings per day, use 200 shillings to buy basic needs at home and save 300 shillings. I later bought iron sheets but failed to buy the bricks. So I decided to make them on my own. I later got a builder and I served as a porter until my house was completed and I occupied it.
With the kind of poverty that Janet lives in, she managed to put her children in school and were able to at least get the minimum education status. However, given the antiretroviral drugs commonly known as ARVs that she has to take on a daily basis, Janet still cannot afford to have a healthy meal that is recommended by medics. She says that as long as she gets at least some water and at least a piece of leftovers, then she is good to go.
It depends on the way you make your body get used to the drugs. If you make it get used to taking water, well and good. If you make it used to having heavy meals, once you miss a day, then you will suffer. As for me, once I get a glass of water and a small portion of leftovers, I can gladly swallow my drugs without any problems.
After some time of self-denial, Janet decided to change her way of thinking and she started opening up to people as a way of healing and also sensitizing others. In the village where she stays, Janet, alongside other people living with HIV/AIDS, started a group which has helped them in various ways. It is that same group where each one of the members takes turns in collecting their drugs on a monthly basis from the hospital, and this was more than helpful during the COVID-19 lockdown.
For the case of drugs, I and my other 5 colleagues started a group during total lockdown. One of our members, who owns a bicycle, would go and pick the drugs from the hospital for every member. From then, we kept on alternating, and this time round, I'll be the one to go and pick our drugs.
Janet, with her drama group members, always go to communities to speak out and sensitize the masses about HIV/AIDS. She advises young girls to keep safe at every cost, and for people who have already tested positive, she says, do not lose hope as long as you do the right thing. Current treatment for HIV is not a cure. Once you start taking treatment, you will need to take it every day for life, as this will keep HIV under control and this keeps your immune system strong. For close to 37 years, HIV has been one of Uganda's highest burden infectious diseases, causing both mortality and morbidity in various proportions. Uganda has made significant progress in fighting HIV and AIDS during the period 2010 to 2018. However, the magnitude of the epidemic remains high. Uganda still has 1,000 new infections and 500 deaths every week related to HIV/AIDS. And currently, the percentage of people living with HIV/AIDS among adults 15 to 49 years stands at 5.7%. Well, that's the story of Maria. If you have any help that you could offer, please reach out to us, as we will be more than glad to take it to her. My name is Dennis Duke Onyala. Until then, it's a goodbye. Please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. Until then, for more of these beautiful and encouraging stories.